was just wondering if you were going to record that.
I am for sure.
You are?
Yep.
Who do you work for?
Oh, I got a channel on YouTube. Do you work for the city?
No, I am an independent contractor and I'm here to promote language justice.
Okay.
So basically, if somebody opening up spaces to be able to have multilingual communication. So if somebody who's here who speaks Spanish, then I'll interpret. But
Okay.
my hunch is nobody's gonna come who speaks Spanish because they need to do more outreach.
Right.
But so this is like an independent channel that you have.
Yeah, it's called Press for Transparency.
Oh, I'm gonna follow you.
Hey, everybody in the live, can you tell me how the audio and visual quality is, please?
It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Would you be able to record when I do my statement?
Sure.
That would be awesome.
I mean, if I can last, I know these are long meetings. You know?
But I go on the first part.
Okay.
I go on the first part. So it is what? A free press matters? No.
Press for Transparency.
That is amazing. Do you have a card?
I don't. But I got a website too. It's pressfortransparency.com. Kristen M, welcome. How's the? Can you hear me? Okay. How's the visual and audio quality?
I'm Olivia, by the way.
Olivia?
Olivia, nice to
Hey,
meet
nice to meet you. I'm Adam.
Nice to meet you, Adam.
Nice to meet you.
I do.
There it is.
Wait, with this one?
Yep. You can subscribe with that button right there.
Awesomeness. And do you ever do anything in Spanish?
No, I'm not bilingual
bilingual.
really. I just know a little bit of Spanish.
But do you cover any Spanish events?
If
Or Latino issues?
I thought somebody wanted to
I need to
see
get in
that
touch
coverage.
with you. So I could tell you about my program, what I do, and what I have done in the past, etc. But not
Okay.
about me, but about community.
Hey Kristen, how's the audio quality and the visual? Is it pretty steady?
There you are.
Can you hear?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Excuse me.
Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Very good. Yeah, we've emailed a bit.
What's your name?
My name is Adam.
Adam. I'm Clancy. Nice to meet you.
Clancy?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
If you can sign in, we've got name tags here. We're going to do a breakout session. And then right here we've got the sign-in sheet so you don't miss an email in case we have another public meeting. How are you?
Right on, Dub Ones. Thanks for the feedback.
We'll run together. Yeah.
Hey, Rose. Welcome in.
Wait, go hit point. No, you're doing great. Just point. You're like, oh my god, this is fantastic. That's perfect.
So this right here is now City of Durango property. They want to turn this into City Hall and a police station.
hair's still on.
Such a we can make it better.
Yes.
I'm excited to get some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ready for
Yeah, that or any. Yeah, I have a meeting on Tuesday, but I can never be there. But at 13 or
Yeah, they want
Just spread out. Let me know. I'm pretty sure I got some availability in the morning.
Excuse me. This is basically what the City of Durango is wanting to be an advocate for, is this site plan here. You see that? You want to turn the old school district building into City Hall, and then the building right next to it will be the police department.
Okay, great.
What's up, Northwoods Press?
If y'all can take a seat at any one of these tables here, the white ones without the tablecloth are the ones that have seating. And we're gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Clancy Nixon. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for the City of Durango. Thank you for coming tonight to provide your feedback and input on our City Hall and Police Department project and the historic high school site. I want to introduce a couple of folks before we get too far ahead of ourselves. We have Harper and Alyssa over here. They are here for childcare. It doesn't look like anybody brought their kiddos, but they are here as a resource. If you know of anybody who would have come or is right around the corner and would come if they have their kids, we're trying to do this at each one of our public forums to try and get families a voice as well, make it a little easier on them. And then I have Olivia DePablo that I'd like to introduce, who's providing interpretation this evening. So Olivia, you want to come on up? Sure. Introduce yourself.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you, City of Durango, for this amazing meetings. My name is Olivia de Pablo Lopez, and I am the Language Justice Coordinator for the La Plata Food Equity Coalition. I today will be practicing language justice to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak and be heard in the language of their heart or the language they feel more comfortable speaking in. It is important to promote multilingual spaces. I am not sure that tonight we have anybody who's monolingual or need interpretation from English to Spanish, but I sure celebrate the fact that we are moving forward with these efforts. And I'm going to repeat the same thing in Espanol, even though I know nobody's here. It's important to keep celebrating the diversity of our community. Buenas noches, mi nombre es Olivia de Pablo, estoy aquí para promover la justicia del lenguaje y poder promover los espacios a salvo para poder hablar nuestros lenguajes, los lenguajes que más estén cercanos a nuestro corazón. Muchas gracias por estar aquí y pues espero que podamos seguir promoviendo la diversidad. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things that I just want to point out. When you walked in, there's name tags, there's a sign-in sheet as well. If you want to keep updated on any public meetings, anything that's going on with the project, it's a great spot to put your email, so we can do that. And then we also have surveys, so there's a QR code at each one of your tables. Before you head out the door, we would love to hear about how you felt
about this evening, and how you got information, how you gave us your information, all that fun stuff. So if you could take just 5 minutes to complete that survey before you head out, that would be really helpful. But I'm going to turn it over to Jose Madrigal, our city manager.
Thank you, Clancy. Hello, good evening. Thank you all very much for coming. My name is Jose Madrigal. I am the city manager for the City of Durango. We're going to go ahead and just start off with a quick introduction, introduce our project team. We've had a lot of people working on this and trying to get to this point on some conceptual designs to gather some public input. We've had myself, our assistant city manager Aaron Hyder, our police chief Bob Brammer. With our community development, we've had Savannah Lytle, Daniel Murray, Scott Shine, Clancy, our community engagement specialist, introducing some of these new ways to engage with the community. And then we have Tracy Reynolds, who's our architect, principal architect, Jake Davis with DLR Group, who is working the architect for the public safety portion of it, and then Ann Christensen, who will be doing most of our presentation tonight. Just want to give a little bit of an overview of this project. Using the historical high school site isn't something that was new. Actually, it kind of went back all the way to 1994 with a City of Durango master facility program, which identified this old historical site, the 9R Administration Building, as a possible city hall. We've had some history has happened since then. In 2021, 9R did sell it to the fire district. In 2023, we began working with the Durango Fire Protection District for a fire department for downtown. We looked at different areas. We had a joint meeting in which the staff asked the council if we should consider this old historical high school site as a possible way for building for city municipal uses, PD and a city hall. In 2023, we did have a public meeting to look at what the public input was at that point at City Hall in regards to using it for municipal facilities. We received positive feedback, looking for it to be a point of community pride, keeping the architectural significance, and then also making sure that we took into account for the parking, and making sure that didn't have a negative effect on the neighborhoods, and then also finding ways to enhance the green space were some of the comments and the themes that we received at that meeting. In May, we had a joint meeting between the DFPD and City Council of 2023. We had a tentative agreement. In August, that agreement was approved where we swapped River City Hall for the historical high school site. From there, we have began working. In December, we actually took ownership of the 9R Administration Building and the Big Picture High School. Here in January, Community Development and Engineering actually moved into the Big Picture building, so they are now located there. And where we are today is to begin that input on from the public on the conceptual designs of what we've come from and came up with, gather input. We will probably come back in April to report back to the public on the input that we've received. And then from there, look at getting some construction estimates with Tracy, and then beginning having discussions with the council in May, June, and July, as we are targeting the possible 2005 sales tax, keeping the Parks and Recreation component of that sales tax going to Parks and Recreation, looking at what was funding Florida Road and the library, since that is going to be paid off, looking to fund this project. However, before making those decisions, we do have to have some construction estimates to determine what this project would entail and would cost. So with that, I'm going to introduce Ann Christensen with DLR to begin doing the conceptual design and go through the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. So just to give you a quick overview of how the meeting's going to be organized tonight. So we're going to have a brief presentation that just walks through updates to the site plan that we've been working on kind of from last fall to currently. And so a little recap of the building history. We covered that in more detail in the meeting last spring, but we're gonna just kind of walk through that for anyone who might have missed that. And then we'll go briefly, I'll cover a summary of the parking study that was done. When we had that public meeting a year ago, parking was one of the major considerations, and so the city went forward with a detailed analysis of parking to come up with recommendations for what was needed for this project, and so I'll give a summary of that. And then we'll go through some of the early site plan concepts. Today is really focused on the exterior and the comprehensive site. And then that April meeting will cover the building in more detail. And so then we'll also go through a number of renderings, which are just eye-level simulations of how we see this starting to come together. And those are concepts that we're really looking for input from the public, from you, and appreciate you coming today to help with that. And then we've got Lauren Davis here with Reynolds Ash Architects. They're the lead of our consulting team, and she'll go through some of the early thoughts on the architecture in that program as well. And then we'll wrap up, and then Clancy will take back over with running a question and answer session, and we'll have stations where you can ask us more information, give your more detailed input. So that'll sort of spread out around the room after we get through the presentation. So just to recap, this is an opportunity to centralize a number of the city services into one location. And so it's exciting to have that potential to move from a number of older facilities that are reaching the end of their lifespan and limited in their ability to really host the uses that they have, and then have all those consolidated together in a central site in this historic, beautiful high school building. So, and it includes the old 9R building and also what was the big picture. So the three buildings and departments associated that will be consolidated is moving police over to what was big picture from the site that they were in, community planning and engineering that was at River City Hall and is now in big picture temporarily. And so they would be within the historic high school, and then all the functions of City Hall, including the council chambers and some multi-purpose rooms and a number of other services. So, and just to kind of give an overview of that existing site from a bird's eye level. So you can see the central building, and then the community planning building on the right there, and then Buckley Park is to the west. So it's a unique opportunity for Durango to have this historic building as an opportunity for its renovation and reuse and save some of that historic character that really adds to the fabric of downtown Durango. And then it's also this opportunity to have a better public setting, a more community focused center that then, like, you come one place as a citizen when you have your needs that you normally come for city planning or city council. It's all together in one place, and so real exciting to have this all in front of us as an opportunity for Durango to take advantage of. And then as it goes forward too, Durango has a real clear ethic and values around demonstrating sustainability, and so that will help guide the principles to design as we move forward. And so just going back in time here to 1916, 17 is when this first was built, and so it was part of a movement across the country, and especially in Colorado and Denver. Anyone from Denver knows a number of the high schools there at the same time with this kind of prominent architecture, and its location at the anchor of 2nd Avenue, so highly visible. And it's interesting to see it before any of the trees grew up too. So now you can see with the Douglas fir in front of it how that looks today. So, and then 10 years after it was first built, it was featured in a architectural periodical as a prominent building, and then added to the historic registry for the facade, which is protected. And Savannah will be doing a better job than me. Where are you, Savannah? She's raising her hand. So she's our local expert in historic architecture and can help with any questions or interests about that. But just want to note again that this is kind of a gem opportunity for us to preserve, and then entered into that registry around 2001 for that protection. And then we know that going forward, there's a number of unique challenges that come with an effort like this, and we're prepared to do our homework and take this forward, addressing those unique issues like technology and functionality and hazardous materials mitigation and so forth. So now I'm going to just kind of walk through some of the current thinking with the site plan going forward with early proposed ideas for that. So let's see. I'm just going to kind of point to the actual image. And so City Hall centralized. So right now we know that we've got the front of this would stay very similar to the historic appearance that it has today. There will need to be fire truck access, so there'll be some minor modifications that respect that historic formality. So that's generally staying the same, and then it would also have some ADA improvements. Moving around the site, this is currently parking, this area in here where there would be expansion to the big picture building in order to accommodate the needs of the police department. And then that would become a pedestrian only corridor. And then moving around to the west, there's an opportunity. Right now the parking comes up right adjacent to the face of the building. And so where the parking is now is where we would propose that the parking remain, with the addition of a lower secured level that would be police only. And I'll get into a little bit more details of how that comes together. And then providing a through pathway and plaza on that west side too. So making that a lot more friendly to the public. It's really off limits right now. It's kind of within the school district use. And then behind the building too, and we'll get into this in more detail, removing some parking back there so that there's potential for a plaza as well near the entrance to the 2 levels of parking. And then last is opportunity to improve the alley there now that's in kind of rough condition. So we'll get into some images for that. So then this is just highlighting that lower secured police parking level, which consolidates their need both for employees and their fleet vehicles below. And it's, we'll get into that a little bit more. Just so in that parking study that was done by PST this fall, they just did an in-depth analysis of all the current and projected needs associated with all these different departments to determine like what is the amount of parking that's right sized for this facility to limit impacts on the surrounding neighborhood and just meet its kind of day-to-day needs without oversizing it. And so that study came to a conclusion that the needs of this off-street is 159 spaces. So this is just showing how there's the surface level of parking and then the lower level of parking, and together those are, and this is preliminary, but we're coming up with 164 spaces provided within that. And then there's also quite a bit of metered parking in the vicinity that can help with additional needs kind of related to this area. And so just in summary too, that right now the parking lot covers about 78 cars that's used by the school district as part of the admin office. And so it's adding about 86 additional to what's there now with this additional level, so. And then just another thing to think about is within Midtown where the existing facilities are, City Hall, Police Department especially, that there's quite a few specific reserved spaces that would be freed up. And so that total of 43 is just those reserved spaces. And take note that there's also a number of spaces that are used by police staff within the neighborhood, city staff within the neighborhood, visitors. And so all of that would be freed up. So that'll affect kind of the surrounding neighborhood and the future kind of potential of those spaces as redevelopment potential within Midtown. So that's another benefit of that. And so just a couple more diagrams on the site to show that this parking surface in the back can also benefit Buckley Park during events And so this is showing the little red squares are the size of event tents, so like art festivals or something like that. Farmers market could be hosted back there. So in the sort of off hours of City Hall, there's potential for other kind of events to happen there. And then connectivity. Another benefit of developing this site for City Hall is its central location and the ability to improve the walkability, the bikeability to the site and through this area. And so with our planning, we're really thinking about how do we best accommodate pedestrians and bikes first and cars second. And so this is showing some linkages through the site. So the north-south, in the multimodal plan, which we've been working with Sarah, and Sarah's here if you have any questions for her, on the multimodal side, there will be future improvements along 2nd Avenue as you go north to make that even more pedestrian oriented. And so linking to that as a major thoroughfare through the site, using that corridor west of the building as a route through, and then also the improved alley, making that safer for pedestrians. And so this is just a little diagram to kind of understand the relationship of some of these changes. And so that's showing the existing parking. And then I apologize, it's a little bit faint, but you can see then the overlay of where the new proposed parking, we expand a little bit to get a little bit more efficiency out of that parking. And I want to note too that right now the school district property is defined by this line there, and so the city is currently in negotiations which have not been finalized with the school board to have that ability to expand a little bit there. And if for some reason that didn't work out, the parking could be contained on the east side of that property line if needed. And then this diagram is just showing the potential impacts on existing trees. So we walked the site with the city arborist and to identify kind of what trees are going to be impacted and their potential value. And there's a number of trees just on that west side by Buckley Park, and in that vicinity, the ones with an X are some of the larger significant trees that would need to be removed. And there is a number of Siberian elms as well, but those are kind of not valued the same as, say, some of these that, like, there's a few more mature Douglas fir and some box elder and some locust that would be impacted. Some of those, they're in various conditions. A lot of them are towards the end of their maturity. And then going forward, what we're proposing is starting a new generation of trees. Many of these are as old as that building, so over 100 years old. So getting another generation of significant trees going for the next generation, so as we lose other trees, even just naturally, that we have another canopy coming up. And so this is showing about 30 additional trees enhancing this site to kind of add to the quality of the pedestrian space around the whole site. And so now we're just getting into some of the renderings of what this would look like. And so this is the view looking straight down 2nd Avenue. It's adding a little bump out where right now there is not parking and there's not really a need in the road. So there's the ability to have a pedestrian bump out and make that even nicer. And then there'll be some minor improvements here. We're able to keep those Douglas fir in front of the building intact. Going forward with that. The rose garden can be recreated. And then this is so one thing I forgot to mention in that site plan is in the north west corner where the entry to the secured police level is, and that's that entry right there. There's the potential in the corner to add a permanent public restroom where there's the porta potties now during most events. And so that's a rendering that's a combination of landscaping with DHM, but then Tracy Reynolds' office doing a more historically compatible permanent structure for that public restroom in that corner. And so then you can also see kind of what that would look like from 13th Avenue with the railing and parapet wall above adding some buffering to the parking on that upper level. So, and also noting that it's an opportunity to extend the walk that currently ends as you go eastward. So that would continue in this plan all the way through with an attached walk and landscaping. So it's removing some parking on 13th that exists opposite of Smiley parking to have a walkway and landscaping. So, and that's the view looking now up 13th of that corner, and then that's that view kind of zoomed in a little bit with that restroom added. And then just looking at the view from Buckley. So this one is showing a combination of the existing trees and some new trees, and just highlighted that's without those trees. So you can see sort of the scale of the parking level, and then flipping back and forth of like adding some trees just to soften the view of the structure there. And the simulations, and then this is the existing alley, and one of the major changes with this is just undergrounding the utility lines, which is also a safety and fire consideration, but then the ability to make that a shared pedestrian vehicle access, and add some furnishings and some planting in the back there, lighting. So we'll do that. And then now we're gonna shift over to Lauren Davis, and she's gonna walk through some early concepts with the architecture.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for coming. Thank you. Yeah, so I'd like to speak to some of the architectural aspects of this project. And again, we have some more 3D renderings that kind of bring to life some of what Anne walked us through. So this is an aerial view. This is an overhead view of the campus, obviously, with the high school building front and center. So architecturally, the building is in very good shape structurally. And in terms of the exterior envelope, it's in good shape. Obviously, with the historic nature of the building, we're not going to touch any of the primary facades. So the iconic south elevation of the building, the east and west, we're not proposing any changes to the building. You can see with 9R, with the big picture building to the east, there would be some facade changes that you'd see, and we are proposing a 2-story addition tucked in here to again help secure the campus and eliminate some of that parking. So one of the changes we are proposing would be on the north facade of the building. This is an aerial view of the north. There was a pool addition made to the original structure. That pool addition obviously was not original, so we are proposing to get rid of this, and this is this with the red roof, that appendage that sticks out to the north. We are proposing to remove that, and then you can see there's 2 exterior stairs that were added at some point for emergency egress. Those elements would be removed, and there's also a stair on the other side of that 2-story volume that matches that. We're proposing to get rid of those 3 elements, which opens up the north part of the site, which works with our site improvements, helps open up the site, and then you can see we're creating 2 discrete ADA emergency access points here, which would replace those stairs that you saw. So those would be the architectural changes on the exterior envelope on the north side. And you can see some of the new textures, surfaces, and exterior improvements that Anne was talking about on the parking lot and around the building. So here's another sort of backed up view. This shows this little northwest corner of the building where we'd have restrooms, and we would integrate the materiality, some of the architecture of that site wall to relate to the historic building as well. And then this would be the proposed 2-story addition for the big picture building to serve the police department. And in terms of the interior, obviously the building is in need of sort of a comprehensive renovation, right? A big goal of this project like Ann talked about, we're consolidating city services. We really want to create a really nice quality environment for employees, for the city, and also for the community. There's a lot of proposed shared community spaces within this building and the police department building. So it's important, obviously, we want to improve the finishes. The building will require all new systems, so we're looking to replace HVAC, looking to replace all new lighting, all new electrical, etc., to help with some of those requirements for program and use. But one thing we are proposing on the interior would be infilling this track that is around the gym. So that's one interior modification that we're working to modify, and we're currently studying. But again, we want this building to be a welcoming, quality environment for both the public and the users. This would be a new entry point. So this is the lobby of the existing building, and this would be the proposed city council. So again, these are just renderings and still conceptual, but really looking to modernize this facility, meet the needs of all the staff and the different departments for years to come. And we want this to be, we're looking to create energy efficiency, upgrade systems, and just create a quality environment for all the users. Here's another concept of the interiors. Again, bringing in natural light, improving finishes and systems. And then this is a rendering by DLR Group. So again, for the police department, a new welcoming exterior entry. And again, there's challenges with their program and their needs, but really creating a nice interface where the public and the police department can kind of interface, creating new glass, a new entry here, and making that more welcoming. But those are some of the architectural improvements. Thank you.
Okay, I think next up, we're gonna go ahead and jump into a Q&A session based off of the presentation that you just saw. Questions on the next slide. So it's just a general question and answer session for about 15 minutes. So does anybody have any questions at the moment?
Yeah, the 164 parking spaces that you described, how many of them will be for the police department and how many of them for the employees?
I'm gonna defer you that when we break up, we've got the whole parking study and we can dive into some of those details and have that information. So I just don't have it memorized, but we're gonna have Daniel in a wave, and he'll have the parking study, and find either me or him and we'll get into that. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering why there haven't been any quotations given in terms of the cost for renovating the property to meet the standards
So
that you're going for.
that's on the next steps of, we've got early concepts, and so as these plans come together, that's a major next step, like immediately after we get into the details a little bit more to figure out those costs. So, yep, that's next.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you go back to the slide that shows the parking on the north side? I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to park to go to a city council meeting.
Sure.
Can you show me where I'm supposed to park?
Yep. Okay. Do you want to use this? I can buzz it. I'm just going to go to the plan view because it's probably easiest.
There was a rooftop slide that you just passed by.
Yeah, that's, I'm not gonna use that rendering because this one's a little bit more accurate. So, I think this is a good one to describe that. Okay, so north is up, 12th Street here, front of the building, 13th there. So if you're gonna park off street on the surface level, then you'll come up here and you have the ability to park in that public parking. And so that's how you would access it.
And can you go to the front of City Hall? You had a slide, and I was
So from any of this parking, this is all a continuous new walkway, about 15 feet wide. There's a plaza here that's more like about 40 feet wide. But all of this connects around to the front door. And then there's also this on-street parking too. As an option, yep.
The obvious question to me is, I'll call it the domino effect. If 3 fairly major and admittedly fairly aged city facilities are being abandoned, the police department, city hall, and Carnegie Building, all on 2nd Avenue, those are pretty major assets that could something significant, either privately or otherwise, and honestly could significantly help finance what this will be, which is not going to be inexpensive. So is that the imagination, or is that something the city wants to hold those as additional assets for the next thing, whatever that may be?
That's something that the council has discussed informally. We're going into our strategic plan retreat here next week. So I assume that that's going to be some direction and discussion in what the council visions for those buildings, but there has not been a decision made on whether we do it for a public-private partnership, whether we sell it. Would probably be the two. We don't really would have a facility to retain it for, but there are options there that haven't been decided.
Okay, any others before we're gonna break into the stations? Yep, Dick.
Is 13th Street going to go through?
Not any plan to change that at this point.
Okay, so it's still cul-de-sac in front of the Smiley Building.
That's right.
And likewise here. So you, but to get to that parking area.
You need to go
further
through the
down
back.
grid, how do you get there?
You would need to go from the west side to get to the parking structure.
You've got cut through to 14th.
Murray Street or 2nd.
Yeah.
You're talking about.
Right.
Or the city's talking about, yeah.
Oops, sorry. Yep.
Is Parks and Rec then responsible for the maintenance of that public restroom, or who oversees the?
Right, so right now the park is owned by the school district, and there's a maintenance agreement or easement that the city parks takes care of Buckley Park. And then that's one of those things that's subject to long-term negotiation, but I think they would be the ones, like, they take care of a number of public restrooms in other parks, and so we've been coordinating with them as on kind of the how many stalls, how that would work from a restroom standpoint. All right, I think Lenore.
Has there been talk about the city acquiring Buckley Park from the school district?
Yes, we are in discussions with the school district on that. Don't have anything to report yet, but hopefully that we can get there. But that is a goal for the city to acquire Buckley Park.
There's one more question in the back. I want to kind of switch to the station.
What's your best guess estimate? I know this is really, fluid, but when this construction will begin? I know that's a hard question.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that have to go into it, but I would say that, this is probably something that would be, don't hold me to it, but if I had to guess, 26, 27 would probably be when we have construction going through, but it all depends on financing, when it comes in, if the voters approve, all of these things that go to it.
Charles?
Yeah, I have a question. When you finally get the estimates for the parking garage, and if the combo of the parking garage and the police station addition seem to be cost prohibitive, is the city looking at other options for the police station? Since I didn't pick up on the presentation that there was a reason the police needed to be with the rest of the city services, is that something that the city will look into depending on the estimates of the parking garage? Right, because without the police station, maybe the parking garage wouldn't be a project. It seems like it's a fairly expensive project, and so I don't know if there's any thought of what will happen if the price is too high.
We are just going through the process. I mean, that says what if the price is too high? We don't have the price yet, so I couldn't really answer your question until I actually had the construction estimates on it. We're going through it, and if the construction estimates come in higher, then we'll make the adjustments that are necessary. But I'd be speculating as to regards to what would happen if those prices came in higher than we don't even have an anticipation. It's one of those parts that we'll go back. Tracy will provide numbers. We'll just then have discussions with the council and ourselves to determine if it can fit within it. If it can't and it requires a major conceptual change, we'll come back to the public and say, you know, this is what we presented. We might have to do a change, but at this point, we're just working with the conceptual design to find out where we're at with our construction numbers.
I noticed on the panels back there that there was mention of sustainability and solar power.
Yep.
There's a whole lot of flat roof here, but I didn't see anything conceivably implementing solar panels up there.
Yeah, that we'll figure out in the next step, but it's definitely the intent to employ as many sustainable techniques and materials as possible and look at life cycle costs as part of that. So solar will be part of that study going forward. So agreed, like potential on the roof, potential over any parking. So it'll be part of the next steps of study. Steve?
And what is the difference between the floor area, disregarding parking and exterior handling, at the existing police department versus this new proposed police department building?
Yeah, I can't answer that one off the top of my head.
Do you know what our square foot?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just underneath our foot. No, go ahead. Okay, our current number is just under 18,000 square feet for our current facility, and this is gonna get us up around 40,000 square feet-ish, I think is what we're talking about, right?
40 from 18.
40? 18
Yes.
to 40?
Yes. We're significantly under facility deployment.
Yeah, we've got some images from the last presentation a year ago that show how sorely he needs new space. All right, I think we're ready to move to the group questions.
Okay, thank you everybody for those questions. We're gonna go ahead and move to what we're calling our breakout session. So for those of you who aren't seated at a table, could you please move to a table in order to be a part of the conversation? So Charles in the back, I'm calling on you. If you two could move to a table just to be a part of a breakout, this next breakout session and part of the discussion, that would be super helpful. So consolidate into kind of these white tables here, please. Okay, so we're gonna move into some specific questions that we're asking each of you regarding the exterior space.
You too?
Hang with me, hang with me.
Quiet, please.
Yep.
Hang with me. Okay. So a couple of things I just want to mention. There are some things that we're not looking for feedback on at this point in the design phase. Some of those I just want to point out as we kind of dive into these questions. Obviously the facade, can't do a whole lot there. That's on the historical register, so just be aware of that. There's a front fire lane that's going to be kind of coming in a little bit closer to that front area, and that is going to affect the rose garden, so I just want you all to be aware of that. So that's kind of an off-the-table discussion. The parking, kind of with that parking study that we did, we've really dove into that. If you're interested in hearing more about that, that's back there, but that's kind of off the table at this point as those parking discussions. So just be aware of that. I ask that you be respectful of everybody who's sitting at your table, of their time, and try to stick within the scope of the question. So what we're gonna do is I would like for each table to select a reporter and a recorder. So you each table has an easel here, you have markers. We're gonna spend about 10 minutes discussing each of these questions. So 10 minutes for each question. And then at the end of that 30 minutes, we're gonna come back and ask that your reporter stands up and shares the answers of the discussion from your table for each of these questions. Does everybody understand? Any questions about what we're doing next? These are the three questions that we really want to get your input on. you know, I would love to stand here and gather all the input that we possibly could over hours and hours, but I think you all would be hungry. Speaking of which, there's food back there. So if your tummy's rumbling throughout this process, feel free to get up and go get some food. But we're gonna start off with the first question. So that backyard plaza, so that north-facing plaza area, that kind of is part of that connectivity. There's a big space back there. And so we're asking, what would you like to see there? Any ideas? So that's what we're gonna start with. So discuss amongst yourselves. And if you have any questions, let us know.
I definitely should not be
Yeah, and I took a step back. I'm not recorded. I can't read my own handwriting, let alone anybody else.
I'm not sure I'll be here for it.
more than happy to be recorded.
Yeah.
We can use this, I think.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well,
It's round up, because I'm not the man for this job.
apparently you're moving seats because you're recording on that large sheet. So I mean, the first thing that I have is I'd like to think that you want to integrate the building and or the facility in the larger space so that the community says, this is an area of town that I like to visit. This building looks, you know, pretty remarkable in what they've done. But to me, to not compliment it with what they're going to do at Buckley Park is a crime. It's like you can't not build those with some integration because the parking, the bathroom, all these things are complementary or not. And I think to overlook that integration would be just a shame and a failure on the part of the city.
Are you talking about accessing?
Yeah, well, if indeed Buckley Park's going to be part of the city and it's going to be 9R's going to sell it to the city or whatever, which is how I'd imagine the tea leaves will fall, build this facility such that Buckley Park and this 9R upgrade becomes cohesive in some fashion instead of, oh, we'll do this and then, oh yeah, we'll figure out how Buckley Park works later because that didn't happen yet. No. Plan this as a site.
Yeah.
That's my thought. I concur. Let's ask the question, yeah. Fair enough.
I'll question that because I appreciate the respect that regarding trees, but some will inevitably need to be removed and to plant some. None of those renderings show the parking lot with compliant land use development code.
Trees in the parking lot.
Trees in the parking lot. So I don't have a lot of faith that they will comply with those standards. So I would like them to. I would like to. They're very good.
They can give themselves waivers.
They have a long history.
Yeah.
Yes, let me tell you.
Community Development Department. Okay, commission. My mistake, and you're right. Yes.
So the commission has to approve those waivers. Yeah.
Yeah, one question at a time. One question at a time.
So to capture yours, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Like cohesive landscape.
I think we'll do it.
For the entire project.
Yep.
I was saying, two things I can do.
Fair enough.
Sure. They had like one little stairway, I think, on the Red City at one point that kind of just like disappeared to the grass. Luckily, yeah.
some compatibility with Buckley Park, like I said, I think wants to change your things, right?
Specifically, the paved areas that they were wanting us to talk about for this question are like surrounding the building. It seems like those plazas. I think that's what these pictures were looking for. I was like, do we want shade and stuff like that? I don't have any vision as far as like what would be the good use of that space beyond like what you or you that's mentioned. Like we want to be able to use that space as an attractive part of town. But I don't know like what use cases we have. Like, do people want to hang out outside of City Hall? You know, kind of a deal. And our issues with Buckley Park as they stand, I have concerns around the restroom and our homeless population and things like that. So I don't know what goes into the design element. Like, I don't really want to go hang out by the police departments personally, but who might like? How does the use of that space
If you look at a density
evolve?
diagram of traffic, basically you've got the train and then the density
It
decreases.
dissipates,
By the
yeah.
time you get to 12th Street, no one's left.
But it's
They've all
changing,
stopped.
right? Like we have
So
some
that's it.
businesses
Does
down
it
there.
migrate?
Yeah.
That's are you skate to where the puck was, or where the skate puck is going?
Right.
Or do you can you create a new puck destination?
And that's what they seem to be wanting to create, but like what then, what's the use, what's the purpose of that? Those spaces. Yeah. Right.
There's not really a great like seating area. Integrating that process services, that would be a great space to
But for like who? For what purposes? I guess is my question. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that idea for the parking lot. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Right. So there's not like a daily usage of these plazas that they're envisioning, do you think? Okay.
It's this kind of space where the city employees are able to,
I see.
go outside and sort of sit out there. I see. I don't think it's kind of thing where it's like a public space where really gonna take it over.
Right. Because with Buckley being so close, I guess I'm just like, currently it's utilized by the homeless population in some instances, and like maybe that restaurant will become a desirable place around town, because like at the Welcome Center, we clean twice a day, based on everybody that comes through, like the only public restroom on Main Street. So I see this as like an addition. Yeah. Second to Maria's.
No, but I mean,
advertising.
but to a certain degree, that's what happened with Schneider Park. You know,
Right.
they're building pickleball courts there and upgrading
Right.
bathrooms, in part to accommodate or
Right.
reject or do some, basically to attend to homeless population
Right.
was half of the conversation. It was. So no one said it, but it was exactly.
Right, and I guess I'm saying like if we're putting picnic tables, like what, you know, do we want to integrate those two services? Like I don't know. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. So I don't really know what the usage should be, I guess. I don't know if any of those
Do you feel like that warrants the additional investment to make it more pedestrian friendly, and improve that area? So if you could discuss that at your tables, record your answers, and let us know why or why not.
Well, and I mean, if you're familiar with that alleyway, right now it's a shit heap. I mean, it's basically, it's a trip hazard. The whole thing is just a shit show. Now, does it need to be upgraded to a point where it's at least flat and safe? Absolutely. Do I think moving the power lines down would be an improvement? Yes. Does it need to be elegant and attractive and paved with structure? That's when it comes down to the cost benefit. I think the get it to C plus. It
Safe
makes
still
absolute
feels
sense.
like
Does it need to be
Durango.
A plus? I'm not convinced. Unless the money is just coming out of the trees. Right. Sure. Yep. And maybe no cars in that alleyway, depending.
I don't
right.
think that they're proposing cars.
Yeah, I think that was going to be just. I thought it was just pedestrians, but that's what I took right. That's my memory of the slide. Yeah. right there. Well, and that comes back to the integration with Buckley. You've got basically the Smiley building, which is a pretty substantial community asset. And if this all complements and essentially supports one another, all the better. So if that alley somehow also enhances Smiley in addition to, then don't think like this. Think, how does it work in the bigger picture?
I think that's true of both of these.
Yes, I agree.
All of them are complementary to the neighborhood, which includes Smiley.
Open your blinders and look within 100 yards. Yeah, yeah, all that.
Outside gatherings.
Large family events, right?
So complementary to
the neighbors / neighborhood.
What does that mean? Isn't that kind of big?
It is kind of big. You know, you're trying to say you don't want to dismiss the existing reality. You want to complement and you want to enhance it if you can. That's an obvious one. Yeah. And he put a bid on the what do you call that, the high school, and so he was interested because he thought he could integrate a bigger Smiley enterprise with that building, which is why he's asking if you guys didn't have to do this, I'm all in. He would take that in a heartbeat. Yep.
But it is going to be.
Yeah. No. Sure.
How would I sum that up? I didn't hear everything you said. Kind of got this. Okay.
Their future plans. To this area.
Yeah, in some fashion, right? Sitting down on 14th, right? Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Is it just going to be through? Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's worth thinking about accessibility or risky. You can get there only basically sort of from the west. It's like, wait a second, you don't have any way to access your new multi-tens of millions of dollars public center except for from this direction. It's like, that's just, there's got to be a better plan.
To sort of be for like employees and stuff that are coming into market. So that way it's removing them off of neighborhood streets, so it's not impeding them. Because like by placing that as like a public parking area, like access downtown, it's already so far removed. It's not going to
Yeah. employee vehicles, yeah.
So visitors are then asked to be at metered spots as they do?
Well, yes, but assuming they're transported, let's say they scrape the police building and it becomes condominium living or low income house. I don't care what it is, but it's going to have its own parking demand, which will be different and maybe even higher than what a police is. Maybe it depends on what it becomes. It's not going to disappear. It's not like they're parking. It'll just get shifted. So there's always a ripple
What
effect.
else do you feel this project needs to be a point of community pride?
Or sold, yeah.
Is anything and why?
Community project.
So that's the third. We're moving on to the third question.
So they want our group to answer
And
this
then
question
prepare to
here.
share out after this next 10 minutes.
What else do you feel this project needs to be a point of community pride, if anything? Why? Sounds like a loaded question.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are we on to community pride? Okay.
This last question? Yeah. Well, the last one is pretty loaded. It's kind of leading us to some sort of response. Any kind of building features that make it more sustainable and desirable for the future. And then, of course, we want the buildings and the property amenities to be affordable for our community so that we don't create a super high cost of living, as if we don't already have a super high cost of living here. And are the renovations really attainable with the budget?
Yeah, they keep ignoring that one hard. And you ask them about money, they're like, anywhere but here. It's like,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to ask for a 20-year bond out of the 2005 tax. Yeah. Totally agree. I get you. Well, and again,
Makes sense. Because you mentioned this was it takes pride. I think it's good.
Okay, raise your hand if you need more time with that question.
Okay, I won't.
no, but I would say that's a fairly common community sentiment.
Anybody needs more time at this
This
table?
seems to make sense.
Yes? Okay, all right. We'll give you a few more minutes. 3 more minutes. All right.
Really? Where I grew up, our police department was in the city.
I think it makes sense for maybe
Like the
Our
engineering
police department together with this other departments. There's not been a good case for that.
Okay.
I agree. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, but DFPD found a site out there in Bodo for $4 million instead of spending 25. So are there options? Maybe. I know.
just fucking put them there, whatever.
But to me, the impact
They're a
on
city
Second
service.
Avenue, if they abandon City Hall and Carnegie Building and basically Second Avenue becomes a whole new playing field. It's like, so your community project, what's Second Avenue become? Is it going to become a low, restricting housing? Well, maybe not. Maybe it's like, no, that's going to be a new vibrant mall area. I don't know what it's going to be, but the impact or the options for Second Avenue are pretty ginormous as a repercussion. Yeah, that's fine.
Second Avenue implication. I don't think it needs to be state of the art. But sorry.
I think that the city wants to keep the police department with it because otherwise it's just, what are the chances of the police department winning some ballot question to get approval for a police station on their own?
Is this sausage making? Is this just politics where you mix the things together because all together it looks okay, but individually I'm not sure if I like any particular element? Maybe. There is enough space. That's the one advantage. Enough space. Okay,
to wrap it all before you
We've entered the sharing phase of this exercise. So we're going to pass this microphone around to each table. And if you can take about 5 or so
you already
minutes
take
to
on
share
that
out what you discussed.
Yeah, you accept it.
Do we need more time? 3 minutes? Okay, who wants to start? Who feels like they're ready?
We're ready.
You're ready?
Yes.
I heard that. All right. Okay, we're going to jump over to this table and then feel free to hold up your poster and run through your discussion points. Again, like I said, you'll have about 5 minutes per table. Okay.
Alrighty, so regarding the first question of what would we like to see at our city plazas?
We can have your attention over here, everybody.
Alrighty. So our group, some of the things that we really like to see with the plazas at the City Hall West and North areas. We really focused on a cohesion with Buckley Park. We thought that it would serve like as a possibility, it has the possibility to serve as a really great area to tie in and tie those areas together and meet some of the lacking current spaces that Buckley Park has. Specifically like a picnic area and like farmers market capabilities and event spaces. So we think that just seeing those, the inclusion and the cohesiveness between those two is something that we'd really love to see for those North Park plazas. And then as far as the alleyway improvements go, we really just want to do it right for the one time. We sort of saw it as this thing where if we're going to spend the money, we'd like to do it right the first time, while also making sure that it is cost effective. And it's not a thing that is too overly prohibitively expensive and just ends up being sort of a waste of money, spending money on an alley that otherwise isn't a terribly used asset. And one thing that wasn't terribly clear that we weren't too sure about from the presentation was whether or not public vehicles would be allowed to use through there. So something that we'd love to see there was a discouragement of public access for that, for vehicles at least. So that way there weren't people driving through there. Whether or not like waste disposal and services need to get through there, that's its own discussion, but we wanted to discourage public cars. And then sort of the combination of the two of those was complementary to the neighborhoods nearby and the Smiley building for that alleyway. It serves as a really great corridor for people to access the Smiley building area. We'd love to be able to see that serve it a little bit better and just serve that neighborhood so they could access the Smiley building all the better. I want to flip us to our community pride on the next page. Yeah, so for the community pride part, sort of just feels great like the Smiley building. Right now the Smiley building is just this awesome community asset that we have. We want this to feel that same way where you walk in there, you think to yourself, wow, this is a really cool space and I'm really glad what we have this here. We'd love to see recycling of the wood floors for this area. There's all this great like historic like pride that comes with like the basketball court you can see. And seeing recycling of that and integration into the redesign of the building would be really cool to see and would play into the historic value of the building. As well as affordability, making sure that it's not something that becomes a huge public debt for the next 35 years. If that's something that like bogs us down for the next while, that's going to really be a real bummer and takes away from the pride of the area. And then just making sure that those Second Avenue impacts of evacuating those 3 buildings that are currently occupied by public administration, that it doesn't leave a huge gaping hole on the Second Avenue. And we end up with these really weird spots where things are sort of empty and things feel a little bit droggy, making sure the re-implementation of those spaces is done well in a way that makes it still feel lively as it is now.
Great. Thank you.
Nice presentation.
Round of applause for Charlie and his group. Good job, reporter Charlie. Who wants to go next?
That was awesome.
Wow. Come back to follow.
That was great.
Charlie, thank you. We get a little biased at this table, but we got really good feedback from Greg and Lauren and Evan and myself. For the first question, the sledding hill was very important. We wanted to make sure that that part of Buckley was kind of kept intact, and families love to come up to Buckley and utilize the sledding hill. Also, up top with the expanded parking and the asphalt, making sure that new trees and shrubs were, there was space available for green up there as well. And of course the vendor tents and was also important in using that space for events and civic events. The second one, the answer was yes. It was a resounding yes. Greg uses the property often to walk through his neighborhood, and improving that. It's full of potholes right now, and you'll sprain an ankle if you try to use that. So that alleyway is red carpet to the smiling, and so improving the drainage and that alleyway is important for us. And then number 3, as far as community pride, having civic events up there, up top, public art that is well suited and not in the way of pedestrian or cyclists. Preservation of the historic building is also a source of pride. It's in good shape, so let's make it a really nice place for Durango to go up and hang out in, and let's make it look good. If we're gonna start walking through there more and more, and I think that was all we had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? All right.
I'll volunteer. What's the first question?
Public spaces.
City Hall North and West? You're all gonna hold it up. No. So what we really liked about that City Hall Northwest area was the food truck. Thought that was a great idea with those pop-up tents. Kind of what we'd like to see added, or make sure that there's incorporated into this area, would be like benches and tables and rocks and seating areas for congregating. A water fountain would be kind of cool. Now I know in Durango we'd have to probably drain it and maintain it, so there's concerns there. But it'd be a nice little area there, a well-maintained landscaped area, and then some shade sails. I know that there are some at the rec center. It's a nice outdoor space that's used in the summertime. Adds some color to the space as well. So on the alleyway, yes, improvements there are important. It may be a lower priority. We'd like to make sure the costs are kept under control there, so that we get everything else, maybe a lower priority there, like you said. The residents on the other side of the alley will be very happy, so they will, if we're using it and improving it, yes, fix it. Will it eventually end up being just a car alley? Or is it going to be multimodal? Or how do we maintain that so it's for multiple uses and not just cars? So That's kind of our concern on the alley side. And then finally, what else is needed for community pride? I mean, if we've got a nice little park in the landscaped area, some artwork would be great. Convention center would add some community pride, and I kind of broke that down into like areas for like gathering, like not just like bigger spaces. Like this space here, we have the library, we've got the fairgrounds. If there's somewhere to leverage that inside and make more of a community space for citizen resources. I think that's it.
All right, thank you very much. I'm gonna keep those papers, so don't do anything with them. All right, who's next over here? You're up. Okay. Are you seated?
Yes. Thanks. The north and west plaza areas that we looked at first, and one mention was made for really addressing good lighting at that parking lot and those walkways for pedestrians that are going to be attending nighttime public meetings that sometimes run late, and we want most people to feel safe. Because it's really kind of a roundabout way to get from your parking spot to the front doors of the building. And we even wondered whether there might be another access point to the building that would be closer to the parking lot, particularly in the winter. That north plaza is going to be questionable space, I think, in the winter on the north side of the tall building. I don't know how comfortable that will be at all times of the year, but a suggestion was for perhaps also using holding outdoor tables for city employees to have lunch out in that plaza. And it seems like it could be a nice quiet place back there. East Plaza, we talked about retaining the existing vehicular and pedestrian and bike use. We think that connection between the Smiley building and Second Avenue is important to retain, and obviously the people who live on Third Avenue on the other side of the alley need access to the back of their properties and trash and recycling and everything else, and emergency access and all of that. I think is among the important uses for that space. We're also creating a very large assembly use in the development of this building as a city hall, and so as many ways as you could get around the building for emergency situations, the better. And some mention was made that maybe that area isn't a high priority for spending money on special paving patterns or materials or whatever you need to accommodate everything from garbage trucks to bicycles and fire equipment. I don't know how much is really how much interest there is in this table anyway with spending a lot to beautify that beyond providing efficient use. Community pride. How do we enhance community pride? First of all, everyone at our table is just really pleased with what's being proposed for the building, and that the building is finally being considered to be used for this very important public purpose. It has great monumentality already. The way it's situated in that axial alignment with 2nd Avenue and the T intersection there, that really, that's one of the most prominent buildings with the most prominent setting in the city. So glad to see it going this way, glad to see it being preserved, and both the trees and the building we think are very important to preserve as they are, as they are important ties with our history, and we're glad to see it going that way. We didn't quite finish our discussion on what else could go on in and around the building. But I think that area in front of the building is very important, and I think one of the things I would like to see it have is a welcoming character. So people feel very comfortable going to City Hall, gathering there for other purposes. I've seen, my office is right across the street from that on the corner, and I've seen all kinds of things go on in that space around the Rose Garden and up on the steps. People gathering there for some reason, some groups doing various things. It also gets a lot of use when there's parades and you know, floats end up coming up 12th Street, and people come and go that way for those for that end of the parade route. So there's a lot that could be done with that. To say, well, it needs a fire truck to get in front of the building. Well, okay, maybe it does, but it sure has a lot more important purposes than just that. And I hope it doesn't end up looking like an emergency, don't ever park here, red curbs everywhere, fire access, stand back from this area type of message to the pedestrians and users of that place. The integration with Buckley Park, that could also tie in with that. I don't know how else we integrate with Buckley Park, but that's, I think, a place to help do that in front of the building. I see how maybe using the parking lot for other uses could also generate more community use of the parking lot in off hours.
Stephen, we're gonna have to wrap up. It might be a
And
1 minute more.
other than that, we're just really pleased with the direction that the project is going.
Okay, last but not least.
I'll do this. I wasn't there.
So our group started off with looking at the plaza for being able to put ancillary services in there if there were events in the park, like an arts and crafts fair going on in the park, put food trucks in the plaza, or put picnic tables there that could be used not only by staff, but also by same people that are using the bathrooms, everybody in Durango who comes through Buckley Park. And the potential for doing things that our city loves in other locations, like the farmer's market or various arts and crafts shows. So,
Sure. Hey there. I'm just going to add one more thing about the plaza. Just it's this west side of the building is going to become really the continuation of the bike path and the connection to downtown from the river trail. So I just think it's super important. I love the design right now. It seems plenty wide, and to just really make sure we stick with that and keep that a really nice connection from the river trail to downtown, because I've heard that Second Ave is gonna get fixed up as a bike path and maybe possibly one way. And so to really make sure and do a good job on that west side. And then as far as the alley, for me, it's a huge priority. Yeah, the access to our place, but also it's just an example. It can be an example of what we could do with alleys in the city. And so this is a great opportunity to really go for it on this alley and do an amazing job. And like a lot of other cities, Fort Collins, other cities, their alleys are really become beloved places that restaurants spill out onto, and they have access for the garbage trucks and some limited traffic, but they're mostly used for, biking, walking, and some other uses. So I'd say we really don't skimp on that. If we have to skimp on something, I of course would rather see some of that underground parking maybe disappear. I'm sure that alley would only cost as much as 1 or 2 spots of that underground parking. So I would really emphasize that we don't cut anything off that alley, and to make sure and underground that power, and really in terms of this connects into the Pride, show like what we can create there and replicate through the city. And I think it would be an amazing asset to the city to have those alleys, and so to really go for it. And in the architecture, sorry if I'm rambling, possibly the building could have a little more access to the alley after it's completed, and to really integrate it into the architecture of the building. So in terms of the Pride, I think all that stuff goes. For me, part of the Pride would be to just make sure and do an amazing job on the renovations of this building, and especially make sure the addition to the what do you call it, the big picture building, matches the quality and the longevity of what's there. Those, one building's over 100 years old, the other one's, 70 years old. So what we build, let's make sure and not skimp on that, and do a really good job and make it last like those other buildings are. Take pride, and again, in the renovations, and do a good job. So I think if we're going to do it, we really should go all out on it and make it something that's going to last. They're already over 100 years old, so why not build them to last another couple 100 years or more? So did I miss anything? I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you everybody for taking the time to do that exercise and get us that really high quality feedback. What we're gonna do with it is we're gonna take this back to City Hall and to the design team, and we'll make sure that we're not missing the mark with our upcoming designs. Is basically what's happening. So thank you for taking the time and putting so much thought into this exercise. It's really going to help guide us and make sure that we're not missing the mark with this huge project. So that's what we're doing. Obviously, we've just spoken about the exterior pieces of this project. Next will be the interior. We'll do a similar kind of presentation, and then probably have a similar style discussion surrounding the interior plans and design. So please join us. That's currently scheduled for April 30th from 5:30 to 7:30 here at the library. We already have the time carved out. If that changes, we will let you know, but right now that's what it is. We have it scheduled. Other ways you can engage on this project, you can always go to our Connect and Engage webpage and provide your voice there. We are getting ready to launch a new engagement website in a matter of probably a few weeks. So keep an eye out for that. You'll be able to follow different projects that you're interested in, and you'll automatically get updates whenever we put a call out with an update. So For now though, thank you for signing in and giving us your contact information. That way we can send you any sort of flyers or any sort of updates regarding the project that way. So if you haven't done that, please take the time to sign in before you leave today. There's also the surveys, so let us know how we did this evening. Before we're done, we're not totally done after this exercise. Back here, we have a bunch of our staff and design team members to share additional information and to get more opinions regarding preferences and what you want to see in this space. So please take the time to visit with our folks back here. Do you want to go around real quick and we'll go around the room really quick, starting with Daniel and Scott. Yeah, and introduce yourself and what table you're at, what you're here to discuss.
Daniel Murray with Community Development Department, and happy to talk about parking.
Scott Shine from Community Development. I'll be on the parking table as well. There's food back here too, so make sure you
Hi y'all, I'm your in-hire assistant city manager, and I'll be floating around and happy to have a conversation with just about anything.
Bob Brammer, I'm the chief of police, and I'll also be floating around for questions.
And with the design team, and I'll be at sustainability.
Evan with the design team. I'm going to be receiving input for the north and west plaza space areas.
My name is Elisa, I'm with the design team, and I'll be here with the site plan.
Savannah for community development, I'll be here with historic preservation.
I'm Sarah Hill, and I'll be helping out at the parking table and also able to answer any connectivity questions pertaining to that.
Jose Madrigal again, and I'll just be floating around answering questions.
Okay, that pretty much concludes our presentation for the evening. Please don't do anything with your notes. I'll take those before I go, but thank you so much for spending your time, your evening with us, and your energy with us. We really appreciate hearing from our community with a project that is this significant. So thank you very much.
You guys have a good evening. Okay, that was a long one, wasn't it? Wow. Okay, well that was interesting. Just a lot of presentations. As you can imagine, it's not the most interactive environment. You're just having public officials tell you what their plans are. But thanks for joining the live stream. You're a Press for Transparency, and have a good evening.